If you've been following along with the channel, you may not be surprised when I say I'm a bit of a commitment phobe. The longest I've ever lived in one apartment was 15 months, and when I was asked to re-sign my lease this spring, I knew doing so would lead me to a record-breaking 2 years. But it also felt like signing up for another year of my current life. At the same time, I was contemplating switching my grad school research project, but I was afraid that going in a new, more niche direction might limit my opportunities in the future. I've always felt particularly connected to the fig tree analogy from the bell jar. Like Sylvia Plath writes, I can imagine every possible future for my life, all in diverging directions, like figs on a tree. She's too paralyzed to pick one fig and watches them all die as she sits in the tree. I can relate to this feeling. I want each and every one of them, but choosing one means losing all the rest. My problem isn't usually that I'm paralyzed though. I'm actually pretty good at reaching up and picking figs. This month alone, I put 4 figs in my basket. First, because I want to be happy and not drop out of grad school, I need to write a proposal to switch my research project. I also decided that I'm going to host a ceramics workshop at the end of the month, and I really need to declutter my apartment. My problem is that after I pick all these figs, I get this sense of grief for all the other things I had to give up to take these on. So this month, I also wanted to revisit one of my favorite books of all time with the hope that it could help me create better systems for my multi-passionate life. The book Refuse to Choose describes a certain type of person, known as a scanner, who has a wide range of interests and feels like they can't decide on one single path in life. She's talking about how some scanners have this problem where they believe that there are so many things that they're interested in that they just don't do anything at all. This isn't really the problem that I have. As you guys know, I'm doing things. I think this concept that she's talking about really relates to the fig tree quote. The way that I relate to the fig tree quote is more about once I do commit myself to something, it's more about this feeling of regret and like this feeling that I have just cut myself off from these other opportunities. My biggest goal for this month, highest priority, is finishing this research proposal that I'm working on, and it's feeling overwhelming. Before I decided to switch my research project, I considered dropping out of grad school altogether and was applying for different jobs. I received an offer to work on a clinical research project in Zambia. Working in global health had always been a possibility I imagined for myself, but I watched that fig fall off the tree the moment I sent the email to decline the job offer. The future where I got to work in Africa was no longer a possibility. There are so many things I want to do. In the past year alone, I've seriously considered becoming a doctor, a marine biologist, a clinical researcher, a graphic designer, and a flight attendant. And a lot of the challenge for scanners often comes from this fear of committing to just one path. My goal was to try to go through all the clothes in my closet. I'm struggling. In a way, I think it's sort of a testament to I've gotten better at picking clothes. My closet is more curated and I have less things that I impulsively bought that aren't actually good pieces. I think the biggest pieces that I have issues with are things that I just love, but for whatever reason they just don't fit right. I'm sitting on this one, so I'll just give this as an example. This isn't the one I wanted to give as an example, but I will. It's just not the most practical because it's quite short and it's all one piece, so like if I lift my arm up, the whole dress comes up. This dress is perfect. I love it so much. I think it's so beautiful. I just don't know what to do. Also, I watched this Lainey Ozark video a couple of years ago. I've spent a lot of time in the minimalist propaganda, and this was the first time I had ever come across the idea of somebody saying, actually don't get rid of your clothes. Here's another example. 2 years ago when I was doing something similar and trying on all my clothes, I put this in my pile of stuff to get rid of. And I think when I first got this sweater a couple years ago, I just was wearing it all the time, and I think I got sick of it But then it spent a year in the box, and this winter I found it again and I was like, wait, I actually love wearing this sweater. And I've had this happen multiple times where I've taken things out of the box and been like, wait, why was I trying to get rid of that? This is so cute. I tend to set too many goals at the same time, and I tend to fail a lot because of this, because I physically can't do all of these things. Or one goal ends up taking priority and I fail at all the others, and then I feel really bad. I also need to work on like how to actually finish things. The chapter in the book about this I was kind of disappointed in. The chapter that is supposed to be the chapter for me about people who start a bunch of things but can't finish anything. She didn't give a lot of practical advice. She just said it's okay to not finish things. I think maybe I'll have to come up with solutions on my own for how to hand things off or how to keep novelty throughout a long project, because sometimes I want to finish things stop being interesting for me and then I don't want to work on them anymore, but I do want to finish them. But she's like, oh, that's just like because of society tells you that we need to finish things. The first time I read this book about 3 years ago, this was the first time in my life that I had ever read a description that felt so much like myself. I think I just felt like so seen. Now reading it a second time, I get to be a little bit more critical. One of my goals for the year was to host a community ceramics workshop, and when I was kind of thinking about like what can I accomplish this month, that was something I thought of. To set a real deadline for myself, I just signed up for a room at the library. I'm signed up for 5 sports this summer, and I just finished my high rock, so I'm still like kind of trying to figure out what I'm doing for my workouts. I'm feeling a little defeated. I feel like I just spent a lot of time working on my proposal for not a lot of progress on it. So usually when I'm stuck, I just give up. No, I'm kidding. I take a break. But I like to print out what I'm working on when I'm like writing things. I don't know, something about having a printed copy I feel like helps me make edits. Sometimes it really is just a matter of getting the right words. So I'm in full thesaurus mode right now. I'm feeling like pretty good about my intro right now, and that's about all I'm feeling good about, because the methods, like honestly, I don't understand. As you guys know, and I always try to have some little life lesson or takeaway in each of my videos. I do find myself thinking back to them sometimes, and right now in this proposal era where I'm also trying to have a whole other job and do all these other things and also work on this proposal, I feel some sort of pressure to work all the time. And I think a lot about this video I made a few years ago called Life Doesn't Have to Suck, which was about when I was studying for the MCAT but still trying to, you know, maintain some humanity. Even though I have this proposal and it's very important to me, I'm still trying to do things like make time for exercise and go sit by the pool. Yesterday was not a super balanced day, and this is a scanner thing. In the book, she says that scanners have this really warped sense of time. I always have this feeling that I need to do everything right away, right now, right away. It's really hard for me to not work on everything I want to be working on every day. Yesterday was pretty much all proposal. So today I want to kind of do a little bit more with the things that I feel like I was kind of neglecting. Welcome to my kitchen. We have a lot of jars. Although this is something I have been trying to work on and trying to figure out how to be more balanced and maybe let something sit for a few days without that causing a great amount of anxiety for me. Or better yet, if I could let something sit for a few years and just trust that now is not the time for this thing to happen or for me to work on this thing, and like maybe in a few years I don't have to go to Africa and do my research fellowship and all this stuff right now this year. Like it can be later. I can go to Africa later on. It's not like the end of the world that I'm not going right now, right away, right now. Primarily there are two types of scanners: the cyclical scanner and the sequential scanner. The cyclical scanners are basically people who have like a finite number of interests. They don't just do something and then move on. They kind of return to their interests. This type of scanner has always resonated with me in some way because I feel like I have had interests that have been consistent. But when I was reading about the sequential scanners, it really stood out to me, especially now with a few more years under my belt. The way that she talks about sequential scanners, I think really reflects my path in life. I don't like to keep jobs for very long because I get bored. Pretty much as soon as I've learned how to do everything for a certain job, I want to leave. And I feel like being in science, it's really hard. And I mean, just in our culture in general, like specialization is so rewarded and preferred. And in science especially, it's really hard to change your field. Even though I've done it like 3 times now, I do see this trend in my life of doing something for a year or two. And once I've learned how to do all of the lab techniques and whatever, I'm like, this is boring. Try to have a little transition routine when I get home. I usually do 10-15 minutes of chores first thing when I get home, doing the dishes, taking out the trash. Today I'm going to fertilize my plants. But I do think maybe in my hobbies I'm a bit of a cyclical scanner, and it's hard because there's just like so many things that I want to be working on. The challenge for me is that as a sequential scanner, it's nice because at least you're only focusing on one thing at a time. But in my personal projects, I feel a lot more like a cyclical scanner, and at least there's multiple things that I want to be coming back to all the time. That's really challenging. My greatest fear in life is having a boring life. And the thought of doing one thing, the thought of sticking to one thing forever, I need variety. Finished the book and have been doing some reflecting. These sequential scanners, that's kind of the life that I desire because I don't want to do the same things all the time. But the problem is I have really intense time anxiety. In the book, she talks a lot about how scanners can only see the present moment and they can't think ahead to the future. And I feel the need to get everything done right away. A tool that I have developed for myself is maybe contributing to the problem I have this list. When I need new goals, it's supposed to be my list that I can pull from. But I think it adds a lot of pressure of I have to do all of these things in my lifetime. And maybe that's not realistic. Lately, when I've been revisiting the list, especially after I've done the year of exploration, I've tried more things, I can recognize that not everything on the list maybe sounds so appealing to me anymore. In the book, she calls it the big list. Part of the exercise that's different is, she says, with each thing that you say interests you and you want to try to accomplish, take a minute or two to really imagine yourself working on it and imagine how it feels. I have this bulletin board. You might be able to see that I haven't updated it in a while because I still have my Q1 goals up there, and we're now over halfway through Q2. The last 2 months have not been the most productive, I guess, because I've just had a lot going on. I've had a lot of stress in my life, and yeah. So I want to try to update the bulletin board and maybe take into account some of the things I've been learning from my reading as well. Not to mention also, I'm still trying to do my decluttering for the month, and like my desk is crazy and I'm a hoarder. I mean, things are a little bit cleaner. Not necessarily decluttered anything, mostly just put things where they belong. I have not made a lot of progress in the past 1 hour, but I wrote down a list of my current priorities and goals, and I have more than I think most people have. But I also have things on the list that I don't think most people would be putting on the list, like friendships, just doing my summer bucket list. Like, most people call these things hanging out with friends and fun things. They don't put them on their list of goals, but here we are. And I'm not going to look at my 2026 master plan to try to find more. I also, like, I had this whole breakdown of my plan, but my plan has changed a lot because that plan was based on dropping out of school, which I am not doing anymore. My proposal was approved yesterday. That's why I'm not that excited, because I already had the woohoo. Yeah, that plan is ruined. To finish another storyline, I just need to organize my get rid of pile and take things to Goodwill or the trash and say goodbye to them. My scanner panic has gotten worse in the last couple of years. As I get older, I realize that some doors are just no longer open to me. I'm excited about the path I'm on, but there are days when I still have regrets for the figs I didn't pick. I just cut my hair right after taking a shower, just chopped it off. I'm feeling very relieved though, because it was way too long. So anyway, today was supposed to be, or is supposed to be, the day of my ceramics workshop, and I'm doing it at the library. And the thing about hosting events at the library, one of the requirements is that they have to put it on their events calendar. To me, I was like, perfect, I don't have to promote this. That didn't happen. It wasn't even on the calendar. I didn't promote it at all. So I was kind of debating just like not showing up at all. Number one, I have something I need to bring back to the library today. Number two, I don't want to burn any bridges. I want to maintain my good relationship with the library in the event that I want to host something there again, because it's really a valuable resource. Time is linear, and no matter how creative I am, I will never be able to have 3 full-time jobs simultaneously. I did it, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, and I actually had fun. One of the people said that they were interested in having me come do something like this for their club, so that was really nice. And I made this like square shaped thing, and I put a flower on it, and then I cut it in half and turned it into a little candle holder with a little seal / manatee on it. The closest I came this month to solving my scanner panic was making a calendar and giving my goals a home over the next 6 years. I couldn't choose all of them though, and some never made it onto the calendar at all. I'm trying to learn to be okay with the fact that one person can never taste it all, but we sure can try. We got an email from our apartment complex last week that the pool is open, and they said it's very dirty, but you can still go in it. 2 people came. They were like a couple, and I felt like I was third wheeling the whole time.